Shabbat Shalom, everybody. I'll give you guys just a second and we will pray. All right, let's go ahead and bow our heads and pray, guys. Yahweh, thank you for allowing us to be here today, for allowing us to learn your Torah and your testimony to the earth. I pray you guide this study in your Ruach, Abba. Give my viewers spiritual eyes and ears. And we thank your Son, Yahushua HaMashiach, for the sacrifice that he made for us, to cleanse us of our iniquity and bring us back into the covenant with you. Yahweh, we pray that blood covers us and makes us new again, and keeps us from the time of your wrath. Yahweh, protect your servants in this hour of temptation. Keep Satan away from us. In Yahushua's name we pray. Amen. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Welcome to Torah Truth Fellowship of Yahushua. I'm your host, Brianna, and this is the Torah Portion. So last week we went over Genesis chapters 33 through 35, which discussed Jacob's journey back to Chevron to his father, in which we see Jacob make amends with his brother Esau. And then we saw a very pregnant Rachel go into labor, and it was a hard labor, and she unfortunately did not survive. And she had another son named Benjamin. And this week we're going to be covering chapters 36 through 38. And don't forget to join my Facebook group that I've created. You can keep up to date with us. And I'm also working to get more content on there as well, as far as learning and everything goes. So bear with me on that, you guys. But without further ado, let's go ahead and do this. If you have your Bible handy, now's the time to go ahead and open it up. We are beginning in Genesis chapter 36. Let's go ahead and read. All right. It says, now these are the generations of Esau, who is Edom. Esau took his woman of the daughters of Canaan, Ada, the daughter of Elon the Shittite, and Olivamah, the daughter of Anna, the daughter of Sivan the Shivi, and Bathsma, Yishmael's daughter, sister of Nebaioth. And Ada bore to Esau Eliphaz, and Bathsma bore Reuel, and Olivamah bore Yish and Yalam, and Korach. And these are the sons of Esau, which were born unto him in the land of Canaan. And Esau took his women and his sons and his daughters, and all the persons of his house and his cattle, and all his beasts and all his substance which he had got in the land of Canaan, and went into the country from the face of his brother Yaakov. For their riches were more than that they might dwell together, and the land wherein they were strangers could not bear them because of their cattle. Thus dwelt Esau in Mount Seir, and Esau is Edom. These are the generations of Esau, the father of the Edomim, in Mount Seir. These are the names of Esau's sons: Eliphaz, the son of Ada, the woman of Esau; Reuel, the son of Bathsma, the woman of Esau. And the sons of Eliphaz were Taman, Omar, Sivo, Gatam, and Kenaz. And Timnah was concubine to Eliphaz, Esau's son, and she bore to Eliphaz Amalek. And these were the sons of Ada, Esau's woman. And these are the sons of Reuel, Nakath, and Zerach, Shammah, and Mizah. And these were the sons of Bathsma, Esau's woman. And these were the sons of Olivamah, the daughter of Anna, the daughter of Sivan, Esau's woman. And she bore to Esau Yeish, and Yalam, and Korach. And these were Alphim, which means chieftains or captains, dukes, governors, or guides. In this instance, they are captains, the chiefs. These were Alphim of the sons of Esau. And the sons of Eliphaz, the firstborn son of Esau, Alf Taman, Alf Omar, Alf Sivo, and Alf Kenaz, and Alf Korach, Alf Gatam, and Alf Amalek. And these are the Alphim that came of Eliphaz in the land of Edom. These were the sons of Ada. And these are the sons of Reuel, Esau's sons: Alf Nakath, Alf Zerach, Alf Shammah, Alf Mizah. These are the Alphim that came of Reuel in the land of Edom. These are the sons of Bathsma, Esau's woman. And these are the sons of Olivamah, Esau's woman: Alf Yeish, Alf Yalam, Alf Korach. These were the Alphim that came of Olivamah, the daughter of Anna, Esau's woman. These are the sons of Esau, who is Edom, and these are their Alphim, their captains. These are the sons of Seir, the Chori, who inhabited the land: Lotan, and Shoval, and Sivan, and Anah, and Dishan, and Etzer, and Dishan. These are the Alphim of the Chorim, the children of Seir in the land of Edom. And these are the children, and the children of Lotan were Chori and Hamam. And Lotan's sister was Timnah. And the children of Shoval were these, Alyan and Manakath and Eval and Shifi and Onam. And these are the children of Sivan, both Allah and Anna. This was that Anna was found the Yamim. And Yamim, it tells us what that is in Jasher. Let's actually look that up really quick. Jasher 4:18. Let's see what that says. And their judges and rulers went to the daughters of men, and took their women by force from their men according to their choice. And the sons of men in those days took from the cattle of the earth, and the beasts of the field, and the fowls of the air, and taught the mixture of animals of one species with another, in order therewith. Oh, this is talking about bestiality. Ooh. Well, that ain't good. What else? 36 and 28. Oh, chapter 36, line 28. Let's see. Jasher, chapter 36, line 28. And the sons of Shoval were Alan, Manakath, Eval, Shifi, and Onam. And the sons of Sivan were Aya and Anna. And this was that Anna was found of the Yamim, a mixture of animals of one species with another. Okay, so, yep, bestiality. Okay, that Anna was found of the Yamim in the wilderness, as he fed the asses of Sivan his father. And the children of Anna were these, Dishon and Oliviamah, the daughter of Anna. And these are the children of Dishon, Hemdan and Eshban and Yithran and Sharan. The children of Etzer are these, Bilhan and Zavan and Akan. The children of Dishan are these, Utz and Aran. These are the Alphim that came of the Chorim, Alf Lotan, Alf Shoval, Alf Sivan, Alf Anah, Alf Dishon, Alf Etzer, and Alf Dishan. These are the Alphim that came of the Chori among their Alphim in the land of Seir. And these are the kings that reigned in the land of Edom before there reigned any king over the children of Yasharel. And Bela, the son of Beor, reigned in Edom, and the name of his city was Dinabah. And Bela died, and Yovav, the son of Zerach of Batsra, reigned in his stead. And Yovav died, and Chusham of the land of Temani reigned in his stead. And Chusham died, and Hadad, the son of Bedad, who smote Midian in the field of Moab, reigned in his stead. And the name of the city was Avith. And Hadad died, and Samlah of Masrekah reigned in his stead. And Samlah died, and Shaul of Rechovoth by the river reigned in his stead. And Shaul died, and Baal Chanan, the son of Akbar, reigned in his stead. And Baal Chanan, the son of Akbar, died, and Hadar reigned in his stead. And the name of the city was Pau. And his woman's name was Mehetaval, the daughter of Matred, the daughter of Mezahav. And these are the names of the Alphim that came of Esau, according to their families, after their places, by their names: Alf Timnah, Alf Alia, Alf Yethith, Alf Oliviamah, Alf Elah, Alf Pinon, Alf Kenaz, Alf Taman, Alf Mitzar, Alf Magdael, Alf Eram. These be the Alphim of Edom, according to their habitations in the land of their possessions. He is Esau, the father of the Edomim. Ugh. A lot of hard names to pronounce in there, guys. Okay. So in this chapter, we begin learning about the children of Esau who married women from the land of Canaan, the land his father told Jacob to not marry from. And another name for Esau, as we just saw, is Edom. So when we hear about the land of Edom, these are the children of Esau. Ada was one of Esau's wives, along with Olivamah and Bathsmath, who was Ishmael's daughter, whom he married first. He went and found her and married her shortly after his mother and father told Jacob to leave and to not marry any of the daughters of the land of Canaan. And Ada bore to Esau Eliphaz, Bathsma bore Reuel, Olivamah bore Yeish, and Yalam, and Korach. And after Esau and Jacob laid their father to rest, Esau gathered his women and children and all his cattle and servants, and he went before Jacob out of the land of Chevron back to Mount Seir, his land, because there was not enough land to sustain them all. There was too many people, too many cattle. And then we see Esau's firstborn, Eliphaz, has sons, and their names are Taman, Omar, Sepho, and Gitam, and Kenaz. And then we see Eliphaz has a concubine, and she bore to Eliphaz a son, and his name was Amalek. And then next we see the sons of Reuel, and their names are Nakath, Zarach, Shammah, and Mizah. And then we see Esau's captains and his army, which was what the Alphim are, they're the captains. With his firstborn, Eliphaz, as the chief captain, along with his sons under him. And then it goes on to name all the generations and those kings that reigned over Edom before Yasharel, before Israel had any king. And we see the sons of Esau inheriting the land and setting up their captains generation after generation. And this is their possession from their father Esau. All right, chapter 37. Let's go ahead and read it. And Yaakov dwelt in the land wherein his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan. These are the generations of Yaakov. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brethren, and the lad was with the sons of Bilhah, and with the sons of Zilpah, his father's woman. And Joseph brought unto his father their evil report. Now Yasharel loved Joseph, Jacob, he loved Joseph, more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors. And when his brethren saw that their father loved him more than all his brethren, they hated him, and could not speak peaceably unto him. And Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it his brethren, and they hated him yet the more. And he said unto them, Hear, I pray you, this dream which I have dreamed. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose and stood upright, and behold, your sheaf stood round about and made obeisance to my sheaf. And his brethren said to him, Shall you indeed reign over us, or shall you indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dreams and for his words. Can you guys excuse me for just a moment? Okay. And he dreamed yet another dream, and told it his brethren, and said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more. And behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. And he told it to his father and to his brethren. And his father rebuked him, and said unto him, What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall I and your mother and your brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to you and to the earth? And his brethren envied him, but his father observed the saying. And his brethren went to feed their father's flock in Shechem. And Yasharel said unto Elioseph, Do not your brethren feed the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send you unto them. And he said to him, Here am I. And he said to him, Go, I pray you, see whether it be well with your brethren, and well with the flocks, and bring me word again. So he sent him out of the valley of Chevron, and he came to Shechem. And a certain man found him, and behold, he was wandering in the field. And the man asked, saying, What do you seek? And he said, I seek my brethren. Tell me, I pray you, where they feed their flocks. And the man said, They are departed hence, for I heard them say, Let us go to Dothan. And Joseph went after his brethren, and found them in Dothan. And when they saw him afar off, even before he came near unto them, they conspired against him to slay him. And they said to one another, Behold, the dreamer comes. Come now, therefore, and let us slay him, and cast him in some pit. And we will say, Some evil beast has devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dreams. And Reuben heard it. And he delivered him out of their hands, and said, Let us not kill him. And Reuben said unto them, Shed no blood, but cast him into the pit that is in the wilderness, and lay no hand upon him, that he might rid out of their hands, to deliver him to his father again. And it came to pass, when Joseph was come unto his brethren, that they stripped Joseph out of his coat of many colors that was upon him. And they took him and cast him into a pit. And the pit was empty, and there was no water in it. And they sat down to eat bread. And they lifted up their eyes, and and looked, and behold, a company of Ishmaelim came from Gilad with their camels, bearing spicery and balm and myrrh, going to carry it down to Mizraim. And Yehudah said unto his brethren, What profit is it if we slay our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelim, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. And his brethren were content. Then there passed by a Midianim merchantman, and they drew up and lifted Joseph out of the pit, and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelim for 20 pieces of silver, and they brought Joseph to Mizraim. And Reuben returned unto the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit. And he rent his clothes, and he returned unto his brethren, and said, The child is not, and whither shall I go? And they took Joseph's coat, and killed a kid of the goats, and dipped the coat in the blood. And they sent the coat of many colors, and they brought it to their father, and said, This we have found. Know whether it be your son's coat or no. And he knew it, and said, It is my son's coat. An evil beast has devoured him. Joseph is without doubt rent in pieces. And Yaakov rent his clothes, and put sackcloth upon his loins, and mourned for his son many days. And all his sons and all his daughters rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. And he said, For I will go down into Sheol unto my son mourning. Thus his father wept for him, and the Midianim sold him into Mizraim unto Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's and captain of the guard. Okay. So in this chapter, we see that Jacob and his sons and his concubines are dwelling in the land of Canaan now. I mean, not Canaan. They're dwelling in the land of Chevron now. I'm sorry. And Joseph, who is 17 at the time, he helped feed the flocks with his brethren. And Jacob, he loved Joseph more than his other sons. He was Jacob's favorite. And because he was the child of Jacob's old age, just as Isaac, Jacob's father, was the child of Abraham's old age. Abraham was like 100 when he had Isaac, and Sarah was 99 when she bore him. Actually, I think Abraham was older than 100. I think he was like 102 maybe. But I know for a fact that Sarah was 99 when she bore Isaac. And his brothers envied him, and Jacob made Joseph a coat of many colors to wear. And it came one day that Joseph had a dream, and in this dream he and his brothers are binding sheaves in the field, and Joseph's sheaf arose and stood upright, and his brother's sheaves stood around his sheaf and bowed to him and made supplications. And his brothers said, You think you're going to have dominion over us? Give me a second. So yeah, they were like, You think you're going to have dominion over us? Mind you, Joseph was the second youngest of Jacob's sons. Until Benjamin was born, Joseph was the youngest. And they hated Joseph even more for his dreams and his words. And then he has another dream, and he tells his brothers and his father, and Jacob rebukes him and says, You think I and your mother and brothers are going to bow down to you? And it came to pass that his brothers went out into the field, and they had been gone for a while. So Jacob tells Joseph to go out and look for them and make sure that no mischief had befallen them. And Jacob says, Find them and bring me back word. So Joseph makes it to the fields where his brothers are supposed to be, and a certain man sees him wandering and asks, What are you doing? And Joseph says, I'm looking for my brethren. Can you tell me where they are? And the man says, Well, they just left. I heard them say that they're going to Dothan. So Joseph goes to Dothan to find them, and when they saw him coming, they mocked him and said, Oh, here comes the dreamer. And they conspired right there to kill him. They wanted to cast him down into the pit in the ground and say a wild beast tore him up, mocking him again, saying, Then we'll see what shall become of his dreams. And Reuben heard this afar off, and he said, Don't kill him. And he said, Shed no blood, just throw him into the pit and be done with it. And Joseph finally made it to them, and they ripped off his coat of many colors, and they threw him into the pit. And as they sat down to eat bread, they looked up, and they saw a company of Ishmaelim coming from Gilad, selling spices that were going down into Mizraim. And Judah says to his brothers, What profit is it if we slay our brother? Let's sell him to these Ishmaelim, and it not be upon our hands. And his brothers agreed. So they speak with the Ishmaelim, and they sell their brother for 20 pieces of silver. And they took Joseph to Mizraim, and then Reuben came over to the pit later to get Joseph out, and saw that he was gone. And he rent his clothes right there. Reuben did. He rent his clothes, worried about his brother. And he found his other brothers, and he said, Joseph is gone, where is he? So his brothers killed a kid of a goat, and they put its blood all over Joseph's coat to make it look like he was attacked. And they brought it to Jacob and said that we found this, and we don't know if it's Joseph's or not, you tell us. And Jacob knew it, and he said, this is my son's coat, and an evil beast has devoured him. And Jacob rent his clothes, and he put on sackcloth and mourned for many days for his son. And all his sons and daughters tried to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. And he said, I will go down into Sheol, mourning for my son. And he wept for Joseph. And the men of Midian, the men of Ishmael, sold Joseph into slavery in Mitzrayim. They sold him to Potiphar, which was one of Pharaoh's officers and captain of the guard. So let's read. I want to read to you guys Jasher chapter 41. 41, 42, and 43, 1 through 11, which not only confirm this, but give us a clearer outlook on the account. I really love the book of Jasher. We're definitely going to do a read-through of Jasher one day. So let me see. Jasher, 41? Let me mark my page. Alright, let's go ahead and read this real quick. Alright. And at the revolution of the year, the sons of Yaakov journeyed from Shechem, and they came to Chevron to their father Yitzhak, and they dwelt there, and built their flocks and herds, and they fed daily in Shechem, for there was in those days good and fat pasture, and Yaakov and his sons and all their household dwelt in the valley of Chevron. And it was in those days, in that year, being 106th year of the life of Yaakov, and the 10th year of Yaakov's coming from Paddan Aram, that Leah, the woman of Yaakov, died. She was 51 years old when she died in Chevron, and Yaakov and his sons buried her in the cave of the field of Machpelah, which is in Chevron, which Abraham had bought from the children of Sheth for the possession of a burial place. And the sons of Yaakov dwelt there with their father in the valley of Chevron, and all the inhabitants of the land knew their strength, and their fame went throughout the land. And Joseph, the son of Yaakov, and his brother Benjamin, and the sons of Rachel, the woman of Yaakov, were yet young in those days, and did not go out with their brethren during the battles in the cities of the Amorim. And when Joseph saw the strength of his brethren and their greatness, he praised them and extolled them, but he ranked himself greater than them, and he extolled himself above them. And Yaakov, his father, also loved him more than any of his sons, for he was the son of his old age. And through his love toward him, he made him a coat of many colors. And when Joseph saw that his father loved him more than his brethren, he continued to exalt himself above his brethren, and he brought unto his father evil reports concerning them. And the sons of Yaakov, seeing the whole of Joseph's conduct toward them, and that their father loved him more than any of them, they hated him, and could not speak peaceably to him all the days. And Joseph was 17 years old, and he was still magnifying himself above the brethren, and he thought of raising himself above them. And at that time he dreamed a dream. And he came unto his brothers, and told them his dream. And he said unto them, I dreamed a dream, and behold, we were all binding sheaves in the field, and my sheaf rose, and placed itself upon the ground, and your sheaves surrounded it, and bowed down to it. And his brethren answered him, and said unto him, What means this dream that you did dream? Did you imagine it in your heart to reign over and rule? To reign or rule over us? And he still came and told them the thing to his father. And Yaakov kissed Joseph when he heard these words from his mouth. And Yaakov blessed Joseph. And when the sons of Yaakov saw that their father had blessed Joseph and had kissed him, and that he loved him exceedingly, they became jealous of him and hated him the more. And after this Joseph dreamed another dream, and related the dream to his father in the presence of his brethren. And Joseph said unto his father and brethren, Behold, I have again dreamed a dream, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars bowed down to me. And his father heard the words of Joseph and his dream. And seeing that his brethren hated Joseph on the account of this matter, Yaakov therefore rebuked Joseph before his brethren on the account of this thing, saying, What means this dream which you have dreamed, and this magnifying yourself before your brethren who are older than you are? Do you imagine in your heart that I and your mother and your 11 brethren will come and bow down to you, that you speak these things? And his brethren were jealous of him on account of his words and dreams, and they continued to hate him. And Yaakov reserved the dreams in his heart. And the sons of Yaakov went one day to feed their father's flocks in Shechem, for they were still herdsmen in those days. And while the sons of Yaakov were that day feeding in Shechem, they delayed, and the time of And the time of gathering in the cattle was past, and they had not arrived. And Yaakov saw that his sons were delayed in Shechem. And Yaakov said within himself, Perchance the people of Shechem have risen up to fight against them. Therefore they have delayed coming this day. And Yaakov called Yosef his son, and commanded him, saying, Behold, your brethren are feeding in Shechem this day, and behold, they have yet to come back. Go now, therefore, and see where they are, and bring me word back concerning the welfare of your brethren, and the welfare of the flock. And Yaakov sent his son Yosef to the valley of Chevron, and Yosef came for his brothers to Shechem, and could not find them. And Yosef went about the field which was near Shechem, to see where his brothers had turned. And he missed his road in the wilderness, and he knew not which way he should go. And an angel of Yahweh found him wandering in the road toward the field. And Yosef said unto the angel of Yahweh, I seek my brethren. Have you not heard where they are? Feeding? And the angel of Yahweh said unto Yosef, I saw your brethren feeding here, and I heard them say they would go to feed in Dothan. And Yosef hearkened to the voice of the angel of Yahweh. And he went to his brethren in Dothan, and he found them in the Dothan feeding the flock. And Yosef advanced to his brethren, and before they had come nigh unto him, they had resolved to slay him. And Shimon said to his brethren, Behold, the man of dreams is coming unto us this day. And now therefore, come, let us kill him, and cast him in one of the pits that are in the wilderness. And when his father shall seek him from us, we will say, An evil beast has devoured him. And Reuben heard the words of his brethren concerning Yosef, and he said unto them, You should not do this thing. For how can we look upon to our father Yaakov? Cast him into this pit to die there, but stretch not forth a hand upon him to spill his blood. And Reuben said this in order to deliver him from their hand, to bring him back to his father. And when Yosef came to his brethren, he sat before them, and they arose upon him, and seized him, and smote him to the earth, and they stripped the coat of many colors which he had on. And they took him, and cast him into a pit. And in the pit there was no water, but serpents and scorpions. And Yosef was afraid of the serpents and scorpions that were in the pit. And Yosef cried out with a loud voice, and Yahweh hid the serpents and scorpions in the sides of the pit, and they did no harm unto Yosef. And Yosef called out from the pit unto his brethren, and said unto them, What have I done unto you, and what have I sinned? Why do you not fear Yahweh concerning me? Am I not of your bones and flesh, and is it not Yaakov your father, my father? Why do you do this thing unto me this day? And how will you be able to look up to our father Yaakov? And he continued to cry and call unto his brethren from the pit. And he said, O Yehudah, Shimon, and Levi, my brethren, lift me up from the place of darkness in which you have placed me, and come this day to have compassion on me, ye children of Yahweh, and sons of Yaakov, my father. And if I have sinned unto you, are you not the sons of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov? If they saw an orphan, they had compassion over him, or one that was hungry, they gave him bread to eat, or one that was thirsty, they gave him water to drink, or one that was naked, they covered him with garments. And how then will you withhold your pity from your brother? For I am of your flesh and bones, and if I have sinned unto you, surely you will do this on account of my father. And Yosef spoke these words from the pit, and his brethren could not listen to him, nor incline their ears to the words of Yosef. And Yosef was crying and weeping in the pit. And Yosef said, Oh, that my father knew this day the act of which my brothers have done unto me, and the words of which they have this day spoken unto me. And all his brethren heard his cries and weeping in the pit. And his brethren went and removed themselves from the pit, so that they might not hear the cries of Yosef and his weeping in the pit. Hold on. And they went and sat on the opposite side, about the distance of a bow shot, and they sat there to eat bread. And while they were eating, they had counsel together what was to be done with him, whether to slay him or to bring him back to his father. They were holding the counsel when they lifted up their eyes and saw, and behold, there was a company of Yishmaelim coming at a distance, by the road of Gilad, going down to Mitzrayim. And Yehudah said unto him, What gain will it be to us if we slay our brother? Perchance Elohim will require him from us. This then is the counsel proposed concerning him, which ye shall do unto him. Behold, this company of Yishmaelim going down to Mitzrayim. Now therefore come, let us dispose of him to them, and let not our hand be upon him. And they will lead him along with them, and he will be lost amongst the people of the land, and we will not put him to death with our own hands. And the proposal pleased his brethren, and they did according to the word of Yehudah. And while they were discoursing about the matter, before the company of the Yishmaelim had come unto them, 7 trading men of Midian passed by them. And as they passed, they were thirsty, and they lifted up their eyes, and saw the pit in which Yosef was immersed. And they looked, and behold, every species of bird was upon him. And these Midianim ran to the pit to drink water, for they thought that it contained water. And on the coming before the pit, they heard the voice of Yosef crying and weeping in the pit. And they looked down into the pit, and saw, and behold, there was a youth of comely appearance and well favored. And they called unto him, and said, Who are you, and who brought you hither? And who placed you in this pit in the wilderness? And they all assisted to raise Yosef, and they drew him out, and brought him up from the pit. And they took him, and went away on their journey, and passed by his brethren. And these said unto him, Why do you do this, to take our servant from us, and to go away? Surely we placed this youth in the pit pit because he rebelled against us. And you see they're lying, right? His brothers are lying to these people who just saved Joseph, saying that he's their servant, and they threw him in there because he rebelled. And the Midianim answered and said unto the sons of Yaakov, Is this your servant, or does this man attend you? Perchance you are all his servants, for he is more comely and well favored than any of you. And why do you speak falsely unto us? Now therefore we will not listen to your words, nor attend to you. For we found the youth in the pit in the wilderness, and we took him, and we will therefore go on. And all the sons of Yaakov approached them, and rose up to them, and said unto them, Give us back our servant, and why will you all die by the edge of the sword? And the Midianim cried out against them, and they drew their swords, and approached to fight with the sons of Yaakov. And behold, Shimon rose up from his seat against them, and sprang up upon the ground, and drew his sword, and approached the Midianim, and he gave a terrible shout before them, so that his shouting was heard at a distance, and the earth shook at Shimon's shouting. And the Midianim were terrified on account of Shimon, and the noise of his shouting, and they fell upon their faces, and were excessively alarmed. And Shimon said unto them, Truly I am Shimon, the son of Yaakov the Ivri, who have only with my brother destroyed the city of Shechem and the cities of Amorim. So shall Elohim moreover do unto me, that if all your brethren, the people of Midian, also the kings of Canaan, were to come with you, they could not fight against me. Now therefore give us back the youth whom you have taken, lest I give your flesh to the birds of the skies and the beasts of the earth. And the Midianim were more afraid of Shimon, and they approached the sons of Yaakov with terror and fright, and with pathetic words, saying, Surely you have said that the young man is your servant, and that he rebelled against you, and therefore you placed him in the pit. What then will you do with a servant who rebels against his Adonai? Now therefore sell him unto us, and we will give you all that you require for him. And Yahweh was pleased to do this in order that the sons of Yaakov should not slay their brother. And the Midianim saw that Joseph was of a comely appearance and well favored. They desired him in their hearts, and they were urgent to purchase him from his brethren. And the sons of Yaakov hearkened to the Midianim, and they sold their brother Joseph to them for 20 pieces of silver. And Reuben their brother was not with them, and the Midianim took Joseph and continued their journey to Gilad. And they were going along the road, and the Midianim repented of what they had done in having purchased the young man, and said to one another, What is this thing we have done in taking this youth from the Ephraim, who is of comely appearance and well favored? Perhaps this youth is stolen from the land of the Ephraim, and why then have we done this thing? And if he should be sought for and found in our hands, we shall die through him. Now surely hardy and powerful men have sold him to us, the strength of one whom you have saw this day. Perhaps they stole him from his land with their might and with their powerful arm, and have therefore sold him to us for the small value which we gave unto them. And while they were thus discoursing together, they looked, and behold, the company of the Yishmaelim, which is coming at first, and which the sons of Yaakov saw as advancing toward the Midianim. And the Midianim said to each other, Come, let us sell this youth to the company of the Yishmaelim who are coming towards us, and we will take for him the little that we gave for him, and we will be delivered from his evil. And they did so, and they reached the Yishmaelim, and the Midianim sold Joseph to the Yishmaelim for 20 pieces of silver, which they had given for him to his brethren. And the Midianim went on their road to Gilad, and the Yishmaelim took Joseph, and they let him ride upon one of the camels, and they were leading him to Mitzrayim. And Joseph heard that the Yishmaeli were proceeding to Mitzrayim. And Joseph lamented and wept at this thing, that he was to be so far removed from the land of Canaan from his father. And he wept bitterly while he was riding upon the camel. And one of their men observed him, and made him to go down from the camel and walk on foot. And notwithstanding this, Joseph continued to cry and weep. And he said, Oh, my father, my father. And one of the Yishmaelim rose up and smote Joseph upon the cheek, and he still continued to weep. And Joseph was fatigued in the road, and was unable to proceed on the account of the bitterness of his soul. And they all smote him and afflicted him in the road, and they terrified him in order that he might cease from weeping. And Yahweh saw the ambition of Joseph and his trouble. And Yahweh brought down upon the men darkness and confusion, and the hand of everyone that smote him became withered. And they said to each other, What is this thing Elohim has done to us in the road? And they knew not that this befell them on account of Joseph. And the men proceeded on the road, and they passed along the road of Ephrath, where Rachel was buried. And Joseph reached his mother's grave, and Joseph hastened and ran to his mother's grave, and fell upon the grave, and wept. And Joseph cried aloud upon his mother's grave, and he said, O my mother, O who did give me birth, awake now, and rise, and see your son, how he has been sold for a slave, and no one to pity him. O rise and see your son, weep with me on account of my troubles, and see the heart of my brethren. Arouse, my mother, arouse, awake from your sleep for me, and direct your battles against my brethren. O how they have stripped me of a coat, and sold me already twice for a slave, and separated me from my father, and there is no one to pity me. Arouse and lay your cause against them before Elohim, and see whom Elohim will justify in the judgment, and whom he will condemn. Rise, my mother, and awake from your sleep, and see my father, how his soul is with me this day, and comfort him and ease his heart. And Joseph continued to speak these words, and Joseph cried aloud and wept bitterly upon his mother's grave. And he ceased speaking, and from his bitterness of heart he became still as a stone upon the grave. And Joseph heard a voice speaking to him from beneath the ground, which answered him with the bitterness of heart, and with a voice of weeping, and praying in these words, my son, Joseph, I have heard the voice of your weeping, and the voice of your lamentation. I have seen your tears, and I know your troubles, my son, and it grieves me for your sake, and abundant grief is added to my grief. Now therefore, my son Joseph, my son, hope to Yahweh and wait for him, and do not fear, for Yahweh is with you. He will deliver you from all trouble. Rise, my son, go down unto Mitzrayim with your Adonim, and do not fear, for Yahweh is with you, my son. And she continued to speak like unto these words unto Joseph, and she was still. And Joseph heard this, and he wondered greatly at this, and he continued to weep. And after this, one Yishmaelim observed him crying and weeping upon the grave, and his anger was kindled against him, and he drove him from there, and he smote him, and he cursed him. And Joseph said unto the men, May I find grace in your sight, and take me back to my father's house, and he will give you abundance of riches. And they answered him, saying, Are you not a slave? And where is your father? And if you had a father, you would not already twice have been sold for a slave for so little value. And their anger was still aroused at him, and they continued to smite him and to chastise him. And Joseph wept bitterly. And Yahweh saw Joseph's affliction, and again smote these men, and chastised them. And Yahweh caused darkness to envelope them upon the earth, and the lightning flashed, and the thunder roared, and the earth shook at the voice of the thunder of the mighty wind. And the men were terrified, and they knew not where they should go. And the beasts and the camels stood still, and they led them, but they would not go. They smote them, and they crouched upon the ground. And the men said unto each other, What is this that Elohim has done unto us? What are our transgressions, and what are our sins that this thing has befallen us? And one of them answered and said unto them, Perhaps on the account of the sin of afflicting this slave has this thing happened this day to us. Now therefore implore him strongly to forgive us, and then we shall know on whose account this evil befalls us. And if Elohim, shall have compassion over us, then we shall know that this all comes to us on account of the sin of afflicting the slave. And the men did so, and they supplicated Joseph and pressed him to forgive them. And they said, We have sinned unto Yahweh and unto you. And now therefore vouchsafe to request of your Elohim that he shall put away this death from amongst us, for we have sinned unto him. And Joseph did according to their words. And Yahweh hearkened to Joseph, and Yahweh put away the plague which he had inflicted upon those men on account of Joseph. And the beasts rose up from the ground, and they conducted them, and they went on. The raging storm abated, and the earth became tranquilized. And the men proceeded on their journey to go down into Mitzrayim. And the men knew that this evil had befallen them on account of Joseph. And they said unto each other, Behold, we know that this was on account of his affliction, that this evil befell us. Now therefore, why shall we bring this death upon our souls? Let us hold counsel what to do with this slave. And one answered and said, Surely he told us to bring him back to his father. Now therefore come, and let us take him back, and we will go to this place that he will tell us, and take him from his family the price that we gave for him, and we will go away. And one answered again and said, Behold, this counsel is very good, but we cannot do so, for the way is very far from us, and we cannot go out of our road. And one more answered and said unto them, This is the counsel to be adopted. We will not swerve from it. Behold, we are this day going to Mitzrayim. And when we shall have come to Mitzrayim, we shall sell him there at a high price, and we will be delivered from this evil. And this thing pleased the men, and they did so, and they continued their journey to Mitzrayim. And when the sons of Yaakov had sold their brother Joseph to the Midianim, their hearts were smitten. We're just going to get to the good part. Well, let's go ahead and read. Their hearts were smitten on account of him, and they repented of their acts, and they sought for him to bring him back, but they could not find him. And Reuben returned to the pit which Joseph had been put, in order to lift him out and restore him unto his father. And Reuben stood by the pit, and he heard not a word. And he called out, Joseph, Joseph! And no one answered or uttered a word. And Reuben said, Joseph has died through fright, or some serpent has caused his death. And Reuben descended into the pit, and he searched out for Joseph, and could not find him in the pit. And he came out again. And Reuben tore his garments, and he said, The child is not there. How shall I reconcile my father about him if he be dead? And he went to his brethren, and found them grieving on account of Joseph, and counseling together how to reconcile their father about him. And Reuben said unto his brethren, I came to the pit, and behold, Joseph was not there. What then shall we say unto our father? For my father will only seek the lad for me. And his brethren answered him, saying, Thus and thus we did, and our hearts afterwards smote us on account of this act. And we now sit to seek a pretext and how we shall reconcile our father to it. And Reuben said unto them, What is this you have done, to bring down the gray hairs of our father in sorrow to Sheol? That this thing is not good that you have done. And Reuben sat with them, and they all rose up and swore to each other not to tell this thing unto Jacob. And they all said, The man who will tell this to our father, or his household, or will report this to any of the children of the land, we will also rise up against him and slay him with the sword. And the sons of Jacob feared each other in this matter, from the youngest to the oldest, and no one spoke a word, and they concealed this thing in their hearts. And afterward they sat down to determine and invent something to say unto the father of Jacob concerning all these things. And Yishakar said unto them, Here is some advice for you, if it seems good in your eyes to do this thing. Take the coat which belongs to Joseph and tear it, and kill a kid of the goats and dip it in its blood, and send it to our father, and when he sees it, he will see an evil beast has devoured him. Therefore tear ye his coat, and behold, his blood will be upon his coat, and by your doing this thing we shall be free of our father's murmurings. All right. So let's go ahead and get to chapter 39 of Genesis, back to Genesis chapter 39. And Joseph was brought down to Mitzrayim, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, a Mitzrayi, bought him of the hands of the Yishmaelim, which had brought him down thither. And Yahweh was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his Adonai the Mitzri. And his Adonai saw that Yahweh was with him, and that Yahweh made all that he did to prosper in his hand. And Joseph found grace in his sight, and he served him, and he made him overseer over his house, and all that he had put into his hand. And it came to pass from the time that he had made him an overseer in his house, and over all that he had, that Yahweh blessed the Mitzri's house for Joseph's sake. And the blessing of Yahweh was upon all that he had in his house, and in the field. And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he knew not aught he had, save the bread which he did eat. And Joseph was a goodly person, and well favored. And it came to pass after these things, that his Adonai's women cast her eyes upon Joseph, and said, Lie with me. But he refused, and he said unto the woman of his Adonai, Behold, my Adonai knows not. Wait. I'm reading the wrong chapter, aren't I? Yes, I am reading the wrong chapter, you guys. I'm supposed to be reading chapter 38. Oops. Chapter 38, sorry. And it came to pass at that time that Yehudah went down from his brethren, and returned to a certain Adulami, whose name was Shira. And Yehudah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shuach. And he took her, and he went in unto her, and she conceived and bore a son. And he called his name Er. And she conceived again and bore a son, and she called his name Onan. And yet again she conceived and bore a son, and she called his name Shelach. And he was at Keziv when she bore him. And Yehudah took a woman for Er, his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. And Er, Yehudah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of Yahweh, and Yahweh slew him. And Yehudah said unto Onan, Go unto your brother's woman, and marry her, and raise up your seed to your brother. And Onan knew that the seed should not be his. And it came to pass, when he went unto his brother's woman, that he spilled it on the ground, lest he should give seed to his brother. And the thing which he did displeased Yahweh, wherefore he slew him also. Then said Yehudah to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, Remain a widow at your father's house till Shelach my son be grown. For he said, Lest perchance he dies also, as his brethren did. And Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. And in the process of the time, the daughter of Shuach, Yehudah's woman, died. And Yehudah was comforted, and went up to his sheep shearers in Timnath. And he and his friend Shira the Adulami. And it was told Tamar, saying, Behold, your father-in-law goes up to Timnah to shear his sheep. And she put her widow's garments off from her, and covered her with a veil, and wrapped herself, and sat in an open place, which is by the way to Timnah. For she saw that Shelach was grown, and she was not given unto him to be his woman. When Yehudah saw her, he thought her to be a harlot, but when she had covered, because she had her face covered. But he turned unto her by the way, and said, Go, I pray you, and let me come in unto you. For he knew not that she was his daughter-in-law. And she said, What will you give me, that you may come in unto me? And he said, I will send you a kid from the flock. And she said, What will you give me? Will you give me a pledge till you send it? And he said, What pledge shall I give you? And she said, Your signet, and your bracelets, and your staff that is in your hand. And he gave it to her, and he came in unto her, and she conceived by him. And she arose and went away, and laid by her veil from her, and put on the garments of her widowhood. And Yehudah sent the kid of the hand of his friend the Adulami to receive his pledge from the woman's hand, but he found her not. Then he asked of the men of that place, saying, Where is the harlot that was openly by the wayside? And they said, There was no harlot in this place. And he returned unto Yehudah, and said, I cannot find her. And also the men of the place said that there was no harlot in this place. And Yehudah said, let her take it to her, lest we be shamed. Behold, I sent this kid, and you have not found her. And it came to pass, about 3 months after, that it was told to Yehudah, saying, Tamar, your daughter-in-law, has played the harlot, and also, behold, she is with child by whoredom. And Yehudah said, Bring her forth, and let her be burnt. And when she was brought forth, she sent to her father-in-law, saying, By the man whose these are, am I with child? And she said, Discern, I pray you, whose these are, the signet, and bracelets, and staff. And Yehudah acknowledged them, and said, She has been more righteous than I, because that I gave her not to Shalach my son, and he knew her again no more. And it came to pass in the time of her travail, that behold, twins were in her womb. And it came to pass that when she travailed, that one put his hand out, and the midwife took and bound upon his hand a scarlet thread, saying, This came out first. And it came to pass, as he drew back his hand, that behold, his brother came out, and she said, How have you broken forth? This breach be upon you. Therefore his name was called Perez. And afterwards came out his brother that had the scarlet thread upon his hand, and his name was called Zerach. Okay, so chapter 38. So it comes to pass that one day Judah decides to part from his brethren, and he found a woman through a friend whose name was Shira, and Judah saw the woman of a certain Canaanite whose name was Shuach, and he took this woman to be his woman. And she bore him 3 sons, Onan, and Shalach. And Judah took for a woman for his firstborn son named Tamar. And Judah's son, was wicked before Yahweh. He did not follow Yahweh's ways, so Yahweh smote him. So Judah tells his son Onan to take Tamar to be his woman and produce seed with her. So Onan did most of that until the end, when he spilled it on the floor instead, because he didn't want to impregnate his brother's woman, and even though his brother was dead, which if he was learned in the Torah, he would know that this is one of the things that frees you from a marriage, is death. If your spouse dies, then you are free to marry again. Anyway, so it displeased Yahweh that he spilled on the floor, so he slew Onan too. And Judah's last son, Shalach, was too young to marry at the time, so Tamar was told to go back to her father's house until Shalach came of age to marry. So she did. And it came to pass that the day of Shalach was finally of age, and she was to wear her widow's garments until she was married again, but it was told to her that her father-in-law went up to the sheep shearer, and she still hadn't been given to his son yet. So she took off her widow's clothes, and she wrapped herself with a veil so she couldn't be seen, and she sat in an open place, which was by the way that Judah had to come. And Judah saw her, and he thought that she was a harlot, and he had no idea that it was his daughter-in-law, and he said, Come with me. And she said, Well, what will you give me? And he said, I'll give you a kid of the goats. And she tells Judah, Well, will you give me a pledge until you send me this goat? And Judah was like, Okay, well, what do you want? And she was like, Give me your signet, your bracelets, and your staff that is in your hand. So he gave all this to her, and he came in unto her, and she conceived by him, and she arose and then went away, and then she took off her veil and put back on her widow's garments. And Judah sent the kid by the hand of his friend, the Adulami, which was Shira, to receive his pledge back from the woman's hand. And his friend couldn't find her. And he asked the men of the place, Where is the harlot that was here? And they said, There was no harlot in this place. So he returned to Judah, and he said, I can't find her. And he's like, I asked the men of the place, and they said that there's no harlot here. And Judah said, You didn't find her. Go back out there and find her. He was like, Unless I be shamed. He said, I gave her this kid, and you haven't found her? So go find her. And about 3 months later, it was told to Judah that Tamar, his daughter-in-law, played the harlot, and that she's also with child by her whoredom. And Judah said, Bring her to me, and let her be burnt. So she was brought to Judah, and she said, To the man that these things belong to is who I am with child by. And she said, Discern, I pray you, whose things these belong to, the signet, the bracelets, and the staff. And Judah acknowledged them and said, She is more righteous than I, because she confessed of her sin, and because I didn't give her to my son Shalach. So this thing happened, and he knew her again no more. And she went into labor, and she bore twins. And as she was pushing one baby out, his hand came out, and the midwife bound a scarlet thread upon his hand to designate that this was the baby that came out first. And it came to pass that as she was pushing, he drew back his hand, and behold, his brother came out. And she was like, How did he break forth? How did this happen? And she said, The breach is upon you. He breached past his brother and stole his birthright. And his name was Perez. And after came his brother, who had the scarlet thread on his hand, and his name was Zerach. So All right, brothers and sisters, that wraps up this week's Torah portion. Let's go ahead and close this up with a prayer. Yahweh, thank you for guiding this study today. Thank you for allowing us to be able to gather and do these things. I pray you continue to use me to speak your truth and declare your message in these crucial times. Send your remnant your wisdom, Yahweh. Guide us in your instruction and reprove us when we need correction. We praise you, Yahweh. We love you. In Yahushua's name we pray. Amen. All right, brothers and sisters. I just wanted to make a little quick note. Next week, I will be taking a little brief hiatus. My son's first day of school is on Wednesday, so I'm not going to have time for much of anything next week, getting back into the swing of things. So I will see you guys the week after that, and be ready because we're coming in with the knowledge, you guys. I have a message I'm going to prepare. I think we're going to take a little break from Isaiah again too, because I have another message that is really weighing on my spirit that I want to share with you guys. So stay tuned, and I will see you guys not the following Shabbat, but the one after that. So enjoy the rest of your Shabbat, you guys, and shalom.